Hey guys, it is that time. What time? That time of the week where we talk about what new books I've picked out. By the way, I always open my videos with, hey guys, or how's it going, or things like that. Well, I got to thinking about it, and we've been doing this channel for a while, so I was trying to come up with a name for you guys, other than you guys. And I got to thinking, and since it's Doc, and that's my nickname, then you guys can be med students. So from here on out, when we open up these new videos, I'm going to say, what's up, my fellow med students? And try it on for size. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. There's other names that I could possibly choose, but I just thought that might be kind of a cool way to seg you into these videos from now on. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with what I picked up at the comic shop this week. All right. First up, we have Absolute Wonder Woman issue 4, which is so far the second of the 3 issues of Absolute Universe that I have picked up issue 4 of. Absolute Batman, I'm dropping after issue 4. That'll be my last issue of that title, and I'm going to give Superman a 4th issue as well, just to see how that goes, and then I'll give you guys, med students, a idea of yay or nay. I'm going to stick with Absolute Wonder Woman, though, because it brings a different story. It brings a different background to Diana and Steve Trevor and all of those characters here. But it keeps I think more so than any of the other books, it keeps the spirit of who Wonder Woman is alive. Like I've said before, I don't really care for Absolute Batman because it doesn't make the right kind of changes, in my opinion. And I don't really care that greatly for Absolute Superman because it feels like a political diatribe, and I'm not here to read comics about politics. I'm here to read stories about fantasy and something other than the reality in which we live. So I think that Wonder Woman scratches those itches because it's a story about humanity, but it's also a story about becoming the person that you want to be and reaching your full potential. And that's what Diana is trying to do. She's trying to be not everything to everybody, but she's trying to protect these people, these humans, that she is so much greater than. And by the same token, she is trying to fulfill her destiny as a witch and as a daughter of Hades. So I can't put my finger on it why I enjoy this book so much. I've read Wonder Woman on occasion in years past, but it never really stuck with me. But this book here, between the writing of Kelly Thompson and the artwork by Hayden Sherman, the story just works. And so I can say with absolute certainty that I'm going to follow Absolute Wonder Woman at least to issue 6 or issue 7 unless something changes. Because of the 3 titles, to me, this is the strongest one. And like I said, it somehow still connects to Wonder Woman, who we think of as Wonder Woman. All right, next up we have the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. No, Spider-Man is not dead. But he's given up. And to me, that is such an alien thought. Peter has been through so much loss, so much pain, so much death, so much destruction over the years. He's had great victories as well. But he has, in this story written by Justina Ireland with art by Andrea Briccardo, he sees the nihility in everything. Nothing is ever going to matter. And one of those reasons is this is really the biggest loss that he's ever faced, because Strange is talking to Syra, and in the course of the book, she says, he says, how many deaths have I ever, held on for? And she says roughly 900,000. So not even 1 million people before Strange would, call it quits when it was his chance to do this. Peter held on for 3 million losses. And he felt empathy for each one of them because that's who Peter Parker is. So you have this story that is a real contradiction because you bring Peter down to his lowest, to the point where even he gives up and he sees this robbery going on. And he says, why are you going to do this? You're going to give up your life, and you can't even buy a video game for what's in that register. There's $64 in that register. You're going to give up 5 years, and you can't even buy a new PS5 game. For what? For what? And he said, a system that gives us a few billionaires and leaves everybody else scrabbling for pennies. Now, that I don't necessarily believe in. That's anti-capitalism, and I don't subscribe to that. We won't get into politics. I just got through saying I don't read books to talk about politics. But it's just like Peter's down on everything. He's down on the world. He's down on superheroes. He's down on everything that has made him a great character. And to be honest, it kind of bookends the beginning of this series where he was a sad sack and a total loser. And I champion the thought that some of the other comic book channels have said that it's interesting and necessary to see Peter lose. But he's not a loser. He's always been a lovable character to those who are in his circle. He's always had something about him, a charm that offsets the old Parker luck. And in this issue and the previous issue, it just seems as though he has lost his appetite to win. And he does talk to Felicia about it. He talks to Shay about it. He says, you're a nurse at a psych hospital. You lose patients all the time. How do you get back into the ring? How do you do this over and over and over, knowing that you're going to lose these patients? And Shay's greatest advice is, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And she tells Peter to go talk to a shrink, go talk to a professional. But that's not what he needs. He needs to find a way to get back on the horse. And it's nice for him to have a moment with Black Cat. But that's not really what he needs either. He needs to get back to the character that he's always been, which is the lovable loser, which, this book sometimes goes too deep. Not this individual issue, but this storyline sometimes goes too deep. It goes to the core of Peter, but then sometimes it cores him out and goes further than is necessary. Not in a gore splatterfest horror movie type situation, but if you take all hope away from Peter Parker, and even the hope of hope, then this is the character that you get. And that's not the character that people want to read about. This is the character that has lost so much, but he always gets back up. And I want to see Peter get back up. So I hope at the end of this story that Joe Kelly and Justina Ireland and others have crafted, Derek Landry and other writers have crafted, I want to see Peter get back up. All right, next we have the Tin Can Society, issue 5 of 9 by Peter Warren with a writing assist by Rick Remender, art by Francesco Mobili. And we get to learn more about Mr. Moore, the man in the tin can. And we also get to find out that, again, he's not a perfect human being. He had his friend that helped him build the tin can, helped him build his first set of robotic legs that helped him move despite his disorder. And at the end of the day, he sent his friend Val up the river because he didn't think that Val would be able to keep up with what was coming for more prosthetics and the different companies, more progress, as it's called. So he's sent his friends out to pasture, and they're still trying to figure out somebody killed somebody in a suit that was similar to the tin can. Actually, it wasn't a duplicate suit, but they're trying to figure out who was in the suit. And you get to see who it is at the end of the issue, and that to me just kind of made me shake my head because we don't know who this character is. I'm thinking as I'm going back along and remembering what I read, it's becoming a little more clear, but how we got there, I'm not really sure. So we have heroes that face this armor. We have this artwork by Francesco Mobili, which absolutely draws you into the storyline. And then we have this heartbreaking tale of a hero who can't quite seem to be all that heroic. He got to a certain point and he's just spiraling. So it's awesome and it's mind-blowing, but at the same time, again, it shows the fall of a hero. And so we have to accept the fallacy in these characters as well as the heroism. The more that I read these independent titles, the deeper my understanding of the superhero genre goes. If you've never read Miracle Man by Alan Moore, Gary Leach, Alan Davis, Rick Vetch, John Totleben, Chuck Austin, and more, then go back and read that. And read it all the way through and read to Volume 3, which is Olympus, and see the downfall and the rebirth of the greatest and worst things that superheroes can be simultaneously. And then I think the first... Well, it'll probably all come out in one trade paperback if I had to guess, because it's only 9 issues. But I would try to go back if I were you and check this book out, because it's been a really, really good read, and Peter Warren and Rick Remender have pulled me in. It is one of Rick Remender's giant generator books through Image. All right, next up we have Void Rivals number 16 by Robert Kirkman, Lorenzo De Felici, and Patricio Del Pech. So we have this giant creature, and we have Skuxoid trying to figure out who this is. And here comes Pythona and the Royal Guard. The Cobra la 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 la. And Skuxoid is trying to fight back, and unfortunately something happens to him that he's not going to be getting back up from. We're going to bypass that page real quick. But we still have the story of Salila, and we have Pythona. We have Zerta Prime. We have all of these Transformers elements and all of these Cybertronian elements coming together. We have these two. And that's Dalek and I can't remember that character's name. But these two are building Director Lander, that's correct. So they're trying to come up with a plan to rebuild these two societies into one, to try to get the information out there that, hey, you don't have to be enemies. There is a common thread here between the two, not the two families, but the two different species. There is a commonality. And for whatever reason, Dalak's father and Zalalak, the ruler of the other society, have seen fit to put these peoples at war with each other and at odds with each other. And it's crazy to see just how far people will go to create their own narrative and then to keep their own narrative. By the way, space politics are not politics. They're different. So this book has got action, adventure, murder, and space politics going for it. Oh, and giant transformers too. So, like I said before, I thought about dropping this book with issue 7, and I'm so glad that I didn't, because Robert Kirkman has built a story not just for Transformers fans, not just for Cobra fans, but for anybody who enjoys a great story, a great tale, and the Energon universe. All right. Next up, we have Wolverine Revenge, issue 4, written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Greg Capullo and inks by Tim Townsend. And now we have Old Man Logan again. But you get all of these different characters. You get to see a softer side of Logan. And then you get to see Creed, aka Sabretooth. And you get to see what's happened to him, and that Creed has hired some young guns to go after Logan, to try to bring Logan down. Now, he knows at the end of the day that they're probably going to get destroyed. Even though Logan is an old man, Wolverine is formidable. I don't care. At the very end, until the very end of his life, Wolverine will be the original badass who just won't go down. No matter how much you throw at him, no matter how much you hurt him, no matter how much you try to take away from him, he just refuses to go down. Well, at the end, we get a character that I'm going to kind of show you right there just a little bit. And he's going to be Wolverine's next and final opponent. So we're concluding this with issue 5. This book was much more solid. The very first issue of this was nuts. It was just, it was all over the place. It didn't make any sense. Then you come to find out that it was in an alternate universe where the timelines don't add up. It's almost like an Elseworlds tale. But this has grown on me very, very much. Now, I would love to see Greg Capullo on a ongoing title. Hell, put him on Amazing Spider-Man. Even if it's only for a year. Put him on ASM. Put him on Captain America. Put him on the month in, month out Wolverine title. Give him something like that. Now, my probably unpopular take, because we all love Tim Townsend and we love what he's done for the X-Men franchise all the way since the mid-90s. I really think that Tim in his inks is a little bit past his prime. And so I think it kind of takes away somewhat from Capullo's artwork, because Capullo had Jonathan Glapion that inked him for years on the Batman stories with Scott Snyder. And those were some of the absolute best inks that I've seen on Greg. But Jonathan's gone off to do his own thing, so they had to find somebody else. And again, Tim Townsend's a legend, and Tim can ink 14,000 times better than I can. But I'm just saying, I think the art is a little more simplistic than it would be under a different inker. But overall, this story has kept me compelled. It's kept me coming back for more, and I can't wait to see how we finish it up very, very soon. All right. The Return of World Tree by James Tynion IV and Fernando Blanco. This is an origin story, and for once I can actually show you some artwork from inside of here, because not everything's, necky time. We get the origin story of Sammy, who turned out to be PH-34R, who was the person that we see on the cover that's pulling people into the undernet and having them do terrible things and then killing them in the end. And it's a compelling story because all she wants to do is fit in. She sees her brother and she sees all of these things going on with the internet. She's been told about how these things go, and they won't let her, play reindeer games. They keep telling her, Sammy, you're too young. You don't know what you're talking about. Go back to your room. Just stay there. And all she does is she wants to be part of this. But she sees one of the first people, glitching due to the undernet. So this is only part one of a multi-part story. What this cybernetic woman has done is unskyable. You can't redeem her because she has given herself to the undernet completely. But at the same time, to see the innocent girl that she came from and to watch her downfall, to see how she's, started on the path to becoming the person that she is now, not the woman that she is, but the entity more so that she is. She's gone from completely innocent to something completely destructive. And to see that fall of innocence is mesmerizing. And I had thought about dropping this book as well because it's such a slow burn. James Tynion got so many books going on at the same time that he has to do them in seasons. And so he'll start World Tree and he'll write it for 7 issues, and then it'll disappear for 6 months. Then it'll come back for 8, 9, 10, 11, and then now it's back for 12. So I would like it, and I understand that, he wants to work with these singular artists, but maybe you get more than 3 or 4 issues in the can before you resolicit and bring this stuff back out. That way you can get 8, 9, 10 issues in a row before there has to be another seasonal break. Nice House by the Sea and Nice House on the Lake drove me nuts with that, because you would get into the story, and just when you're getting into the story, then all of a sudden it's like, we'll be back in 3 months, or we'll be back in a quarter. And as I've gotten older, it's harder to remember what the heck is going on if it's not every month. It's kind of crazy. I've been rereading ever since it first came out, the Walking Dead Deluxe. But I know the story so well, and it was such a big deal when it first came out that I knew the story inside out, and I still know the story inside out. So I didn't really read it for a long time. I just kind of picked it up and thumbed through it and would move on about my day. But once Negan came into the title, I started reading, actually putting the time in to reread what I had already seen. And you can't deny the power of what that series was. And this is kind of like a modern day, not a Walking Dead, but it's really an intriguing read, and you want to know more about these characters. And at first it was kind of like a violence for violence sake story. Tynion does a lot of that. It's not violence for violence sake in all of his stuff, but there's a lot of gore and violence in the beginning, and then it gets fleshed out in the end. Somehow it always ends up working out and getting fleshed out. So I really can't wait to see where this goes, although if we only get 3 issues of it or 4 issues of it in 2025, I might have to let it go, because I don't know that I've got 10 more years to give to this title at that rate. And last but not least, Ultimate Spider-Man 13, which is by far my read of the week. And we have Peter and Harry Osborn captured by Craven the Hunter. And Craven is intent on hunting these two, but he's going to send them into the Savage Land, where they have to fend for themselves. So it's not just Craven that's going to be hunting these two. It's going to be the Mole Man's going to be watching to see what happens. Then you've got Mysterio, which, pops up here as well as we're building out towards the Sinister Six. And so we have a dinner here, and he says we got to feed our guests before we, send them to the hunt, because we're not going to hunt them on an empty stomach, are we? How much fun would that be? And Peter just refuses to play ball with that. He just sits there silently and defiantly. And so Craven says, okay, well, in that case, why wait? And he just sends them straight into the Savage Land and sends them to the Hunger Games. Now, this is what blew my mind. At the end of issue 12, you got to see somebody pop up who was a quiet Peter the entire time at Christmas. Then you come to find out it wasn't quite Peter. It's this simulacrum, which could easily become Venom, I can see. But he's hanging out with Richard and kind of teaching him how to be a superhero. Now, whether or not Peter would agree with that, we don't know, and that might become a source of contention further down the road. But it's interesting to see, because at the end of the last issue, you didn't really get an idea of who this was. You just thought that it just jumped out at you all of a sudden. And now you get to see that this character is benevolent, and he's not out to hurt Mary Jane. He's not out to hurt anybody. He's just been put there as a placeholder for Peter, because nobody knows where Peter is at. They don't know where Harry Osborn is at either. That's why Gwen called Mary Jane at the end of the last issue, and she's like, I've been trying to get you the entire time, and I don't know where Harry's at. So I do have to say, out of all of the issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, it's got a lot of action in it. It's got a lot of build-up to some really, really great action. I'm kind of pissed off that Marco Cicchetto apparently can't do more than 3 issues in a row, because I believe we get 12, 13, and 14 from him, and then we go back to David Messina. No knock against Messina, but I picked this book up, and the artwork from Cicchetto was what drew me to the title. It would be like having Todd McFarlane come back to be on Amazing Spider-Man, and he comes on for the first 5-issue story arc, and then you get J. Scott Campbell for the next issue. There's nothing wrong with J. Scott Campbell, but it's a striking difference between those two art styles. And so J. Scott Campbell comes on for issue 4 and issue 6 and issue 7. Then Todd McFarlane comes back for issue 8, 9, 10, and then the cover to 11. And then, and see, it doesn't build any kind of continuity with artwork, because the styles of Messina and Cicchetto are just totally different. Cicchetto, you've got that scratchy artwork that kind of reminds you not necessarily of Bill Sienkiewicz, but it's detailed, but it's scratchy at the same time. On the other hand, you've got other artists that are more fluid, and those two styles just don't mesh to me. They don't work well together. So it's jarring when you go from something like this, which is very striking, to going to having a guest artist who has a completely different, more fluid, more solid, style. So, but anyway, I love this book for what it is. It builds up to something that's going to be absolutely amazing, and I've got faith in Jonathan Hickman to pull it off, unlike some other people. Zay Boyle. who built up nothing and ended up with nothing at the end. Or built up, what did Peter do? And then 2 years later, we come to find out that he was just trying to be a hero. And then you punished him for that by taking Mary Jane away. I'm going to finish this video off with the comment that Nick Lowe is an idiot. And Nick, if you see this, I welcome a public discourse. I welcome the opportunity to bring you onto the channel or even in an email back and forth and discuss what makes Spider-Man great. And maybe, just maybe, I don't think I can, but maybe we can get you to pull your head out of your backside for just long enough to understand who Peter is and that he's not a loser. He loses sometimes, but he's not a loser. And that by trolling the people who truly love this character and only want the best for him, you're pushing people who have loved this character away that have been reading this character for longer than maybe you've been alive. So, anyway, just some food for thought. Overall, it was a great week, guys. It was an amazing week of comics. And I'm glad that I got to finish it off with Ultimate Spider-Man. All right, so thanks again. You guys, let me know in the comments below. Do you want to be med students? Did you want to go to medical school like Jim Lee and then you dropped out? Is that a good nickname? Or is there something else? I'm open to suggestions. You don't have to be med students if you don't want to be. But, like I said, just trying to spice up the channel in 2025, give you, something to look forward to, something to chuckle about. But anyway, this video has gone on long enough. Thank you for joining me again this week for my new comic haul, and we will see you guys in the next video. Take care till then.